3. Add double lines for James Harden's upper eyelids. Step 4. Add in the pupil and iris and close the eye shape. Step 5. Add in the simplified shape for James Harden's nose. Notice that its height is similar to the height of the forehead shape. Step 6. Add the spiky thingy on top of his head. Step 7. I know you're dying to draw in the beard, but draw in the cheeks first. Next, let's shade in the eyes and add the darker regions underneath his eyes. Next, let's close the hair shape. Next, finally, add the beard. Notice from the bottom of the beard to the bottom of the nose is equal in height to the bottom of the nose to the top of the forehead. Next, give him a mouth. And remember, if yours doesn't look like James Harden, just turn it into Santa Claus. Finally, add the ear shape. Hey, it's Merrill, and I'm going to shade this drawing in real time for you. You can skip ahead, you could go to any point that you want, but if you mess up, I'm going to put a button here that will teach you how to get it back to exactly this point so it looks like this. And this way you can be fearless with the shading. So just hit the button right over here at any point, and you'll be able to go back to make yours look like this. Just trust me on that. Alright, so first thing we are going to do, we're going to try to find the darkest part. And I'm looking at my reference image, and it's definitely going to be a combination of the pupil and irises, the darker parts of the eye, the nostrils, the mouth, the beard, and the hair. So we're going to put those in first. I am using a 2H pencil. Let's see if we can see that. There we go, a 2H pencil. And I'm using this because it allows me to slowly build up the tones. So let me begin doing that. Oh, let's go right into the beard. Why not? And I'm putting line next to line. And I'm going to do some basic hatching first. And his beard is not very straight. His hair is curly. His beard is kind of wavy, but we're going to put that in with the next layer. But for the first layer, just so that we can cover a lot of ground, because there's a lot of hair there, we are going to do some very straight shading. I recently watched the Mark Crilly shading video, and he shows it's the 3 different ways to shade one of his drawings. And you know, the quickest, fastest way is with this simple hatching, and I'm going to go over it again, but put texture in next time. I'll show you what I mean. Alright, so there we go. We're done with this. Now, on top of this, now I'm going to start to put texture. I'm going to try to put some hints of curls. And again, this is all with the 2H pencil. If you don't have one, just use an HB pencil, which is the same as a number 2 pencil. And let me zoom in so that you guys can see. I'm going to put some squiggly lines. You don't want to cover everything so that you have those gaps, and those gaps will give it the sense that there's a bunch of different highlights and shadows in there. So right on top of the hatched layer, I'm going to go in and just put what seems like curly hair. I'm just putting squiggles in. And I'm going to go to time lapse now. Alright, so from here we're going to do the mouth. And the mouth is just going to be in dark. And you're barely going to see the upper lip. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave a thin line just for an indication of the teeth right at the top. I'm going to push hard again with the 2H pencil and fill that shape in. I'll zoom in so that you can see that thin line that I left right in here. And for the upper lip, I'm going to press lighter than I did for the beard, but it's still pretty covered. And then what I can do is I can take a Q-tip and do a little bit of smudging. You could use a Q-tip, a paintbrush, tortillon, which is a blending stump, any one of those. For the bottom lip, what I'm going to do is I'm going to diversify the shading a little bit more. I'm going to put a line over in here, but there's a highlight on this that I want to keep in. Alright, so just like that. And we're going to add some more shading a little bit later, but for now, this is how we want it. Next, we're going to do the nose. And the nose is actually pretty dark. It's in shadow. The bottom of the nose, we don't want it to be as dark as the beard. And this is why I love the 2H pencil, because it kind of prevents us from, going too dark right away. But we want this to be in partial shading. And we want the nostrils to stand out. We want that to be as dark as the beard. And we're going to have to go back a little bit later and add some more shading to the beard, because it's all about relativity. See how when I darken this, it makes the lip pop a little bit more? So let me stick to the nose though. This is going to be in some dark shading. Now right up the center, what I want you to do is I want you to put a thin line that goes to right about here. And you'll see why in a few. Alright, for the eyes, what we're going to do, and let me zoom in so you guys can see this region. For the eyes, we're going to go very dark once again, but not quite as dark as the beard. And what we're going to do is we're going to shade in this triangular region right in here. You see the triangle that I'm putting in? I'm going to put another triangle on the other side. And this region we're going to put in pretty dark. Almost as dark as the eyebrows. And now in between there's a box region. Kind of is like the top of the eyebrows. Kind of goes in there. And there's a shape within here. We're going to shade in there as well. Right on top. All drawings go through an awkward phase, so probably in it right now. I'm going to darken the eyebrows, because again it's relativity. I want to make sure that these eyebrows are darker than what we have going on in here. And the regions under the eyes we want to be almost as dark. Now the pupil and iris, we want these to be very dark. We might leave one indication of a highlight. So if there's a point that you didn't fully fill in, leave that as like the reflection in the eyes, but basically his eyes are super dark. Now what we're going to do, this side of the eyelid, we're going to shade. And believe it or not, we're going to put some shading over the eyes. We're not going to press super hard, but we're going to go right over the whites of the eyes, and we're going to put some hatching in. Now going down the bridge of the nose on this side, very important, we have a dark area. So we have a highlight going on this side, and we have this mid-range over in here. It's a little bit different on this side. But what we're looking for is relativity. How dark is this relative to this? How dark is this relative to this? These are equal. This is lighter. We want to start differentiating the tones, and you do that by putting different pressures on the pencil. Let's go back to those original triangle shapes that we put in the shading. Going to go a little bit darker in there, and that goes dark all the way down. Alright, now for this cheek, I'm going to put in some light shading all across to start. And also up in here. And we're going to leave a little area of highlight, although it's going to be darker than that. And now we're going to try to build a highlight in here, so I'm going to put a shape in that I'm going to build around. It's okay if you go over where you intended to go. You could just take an eraser and fix it. Now this side I'm actually going to erase the bridge of the nose, and I'm going to do some neutral shading. And the highlight on this side of the nose is a little bit less strong. And right underneath the cheek hair there's going to be a highlight, which I'm going to carve in over in here. And it's somewhat symmetrical with this side. It's a little bit of a darker region. And I want to make sure that I am darkening this region in here. And over here on the side, this is going to be darker. So I'm going to do some shading in here. And we're going to actually erase these lines. We're going to remember where they are, leave them in light. But the reason you have this funny shape in here is because it gets gradually darker. So this is going to be darker than this. and this is going to be darker than this. The bottom of his hair, it's darker. And I'm going to go up here, shade in the hair. Same thing we did with the beard. I'm going to fill this in. And over here, this is going to be dark. Highlight on the head, which is consistent right about here. That's a little bit darker. Going up and going through. Alright, so this is the first layer of shading. Let's take a look at it. Let me zoom back. Oh, I didn't do the ear, but that's okay. This is the first layer of shading, and it's starting to look like him. It's not him yet. Now here's where we really have to look at the reference image and see what changes we could make. And how do we make these changes? We can adjust lines with the blending stump. So for instance, if we wanted to extend a line or extend a shade, you could go into it like this, like I'm noticing in the reference image. Kind of gets dark right along the edge of the hair here. So I'm going to put that in, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my blending stump and I'm going to smudge, and this does a few things. It gets rid of all of the white in there, so paper is not perfectly flat. This kind of pushes it in and gets rid of the white, and it also extends the shading that we have. We could also use the eraser to carve out highlights. So for instance, I'm seeing in the picture right over in here there's a highlight. There's another strong highlight right over in here, and I might have done a little too much. Over in here there's a highlight. The other way that we can adjust it is we could go back with the pencil, and we can use other pencils. So the 2H, it's a great pencil for slowly building up tones, but where you really get the likeness is with the tones. You want proper placement, and it leaves a light line so that you can easily adjust. But in terms of building the tones, there are better pencils than the 2H. So it's a great pencil for design, not a great pencil for building tones quickly. Slowly, yes. Quickly, no. So right now, what I'm going to do is I am going to grab my 2B pencil, and we're going to go back in, and we're going to adjust some more. First, let me take care of the ear. So we have some dark shadows in here that get as dark as pretty much everything else, like the eyes and the beard. Putting that in. And I'll quickly put that in and go back. Gonna go back, I'm gonna darken the nostrils. This is actually a B pencil that I'm using. And you see how it's getting darker? Let's zoom into the face a little bit more. I'm gonna go over this and watch it get darker. Just like that. Just like that. And then I could go in and darken the shading in here. There's no highlight down here. So I'm going to make sure that the nostrils are dark. And I'm going to go back, pretty much repeat what I did. And make sure that everything is relative. So there's different layers of darkness. I want to make sure that all of them are relatively dark to each other. The eyebrows are going to be dark. The eyes are going to be dark. But how dark are they relative to the other parts? That's what we're answering right now. And those shadows underneath the eye are very important, as well as the shadows in the eye. So we want to go back over again. Darkening the area under the eye once again. And you see it's already becoming his eyes. So the H pencils are great, and the HB pencil is great, but shouldn't be used alone. The mouth is another dark area. Let me zoom out so you guys can see that. And you see slowly but surely, especially after we get the eyes, it is becoming James Harden. I think the Oklahoma City Thunder's missing him right now. But, you know, what one team's loss is, another team's gain. The Rockets look very formidable this year, a lot better than my Knicks. Ugh. Alright, so now going back into the beard. Now watch this. Doesn't look too much like him now. Watch this after I put the beard in. Let's go to time lapse. Okay, so Now we're out of time lapse, and you can see the difference in the likeness right there just by adding that one layer of tones. It makes a ginormous difference. So we're going to go back and we're going to revisit this area right over in here. So we're going to do some darkening just by some hatching. And one of the things that I notice is at the top of his hairline, it's almost like a dark area. Usually it's the opposite. You want to have soft hairlines when you draw, but for him, a little bit different. For the hair, I am going to, let me zoom in so you guys can see this. For the hair, I'm going to make the squiggles a little bit thinner than I did for the beard, so that there's a difference in thickness. He's got cool hair. Alright, so let's zoom out. And let's look to finish this off. So we have darker regions over in here. This gets darker over in here. And here we go to the cheek. Now we're going to try to match the tones in the reference image. And I'm going to try to cover this over a little bit without losing that highlight by pressing really lightly. There we go. Now over in here, it is tricky. So there's an area that's slightly darker that kind of curls right around here. And this side of the face, there's no highlight right over here by the beard. So what I could do now is I'll take my blending stump. I'm going to press out the wider areas. I'm going to smudge in here, which darkens it. And this, I mean, all it is, it's rolled paper. Like really, really tight rolled paper. And it just helps spread the tones. And over here I want it to be darker. Over here I want it to be darker. Now I'm looking at this, and I'm going to go back to my 2B pencil, 2H pencil for a second, and I'm going to just darken the white of the eye, except for a highlight that I'm leaving in. So this is going to be darker. Dude's got dark eyes, dark rings. He wants a championship. He's losing sleep. Some shading right in there. I think I left his lip too light. I want to have some tone to it. So let's put it in. I'm also going to darken this. And you see how this is coming together now that we're adding the tones? We could use the blending stump in here. We can create a soft edge at the end of the beard. If you don't have a blending stump, you could use a paintbrush. If you don't have a paintbrush, use a Q-tip. Now let me take that 2B pencil, and I want this area to be very dark. So I'm going to go right in. I'm going to darken that. I'm going to hint at the neck. Let's give the guy a neck. And let's just do some light shading. I'll use the eraser to sharpen the edge. I don't want to outline, but I'm going to leave a nice strong highlight in there. Just putting finishing touches on. And I created an edge here, but I don't really want it to be an edge, so watch what I'm doing. Bye-bye, no more edge. See how that just disappeared? All because of the blending stump. And I'll also darken this. I want to create a sharp edge here. Darken this. Darken this. Can you tell how much I love doing ears? Boring. They're somewhat important though. Alright, so there's a little triangular shape in here. And this kind of comes up. Unless if you bring it up, people barely notice ears. Interestingly, when I paint, I like doing ears because it's a great spot where you can put highlights in with different colors. But when I draw in monotone, it's a little bit less exciting. So I added, erased. Now I'm going to go back to my blending stump and create that neutral. Alright, last, what we're going to do is we're going to pull out some highlights. Maybe work the forehead a little bit. Highlight. We have the highlights up here and they're a little too bright. Highlight. Highlight. Another one down here. Extend this one in here. And I'm using the edge of a small pencil. Some people use a kneaded eraser, but I kind of like this. That's just me. It's a mechanical drawing pencil. Alright, let's finish this up. I'm going to add one more layer on top to the forehead. Going to use the blending stump to extend this. And minimize this highlight in here. Going to darken over in here. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to call that done. I hope you learned that tones can really adjust an image. You get the shapes in, then you build